What's up, guys? Wanted to talk about some feral stuff. And so I guess we'll start off with the baseline. Getting Cyclone back baseline is great, because now we don't have to, take that honor talent. So very cool there. Getting Bark Skin back is huge for PvP, because that's kind of been a downfall for feral for a while, is that we had 2 survival instincts charges, but you can't use it while stunned. So getting, that Bark Skin on a 60-second cooldown back, usable while stunned, is really nice. Unfortunately, that does mean that they bumped survival instincts down to 1 charge, but I mean, I'm okay with that. I think it's a worthy trade-off. So yeah, glad to see that back. We're getting Iron Fur baseline. Just the 1 stack. You can't overlap it for stacks like Guardian can, but yeah, just having that against, physical comps and whatnot can be pretty nice. And then our Berserk cooldown is changed a little bit. So now it still basically has the same functionality, except that for every 5 combo points you spend, you get 2 back. So I can just kind of show you the tooltip here. So yeah, 20-second duration, 3-minute cooldown. Your Rake and Shred will do damage as if you were stealth, and 20% chance per combo point to refund 2 combo points. So yeah, that last part there will help a lot with that cooldown. So it'll actually feel a little more like a cooldown and less like an adrenaline rush, So very cool there. As far as talents, Sabertooth got a huge nerf. And it's kind of good and bad. It's bad because if Lunar Inspiration doesn't end up working out very well, then, that's going to cause some problems. But basically the nerf is, we used to get 4 seconds per combo point spent, and now it's down to 1. So it's damn near unusable, which is kind of a drag in PvP, to be honest. But if they make bleed damage good again, unlike BFA, and I'm talking in a PvP format here, not Mythic Plus and stuff, because completely different animal, but if they make bleed damage good again, then I'm okay with it, because I actually like Lunar Inspiration better anyway. I never did really like Sabertooth. It was just good enough in PvP that it was the go-to, like by far. Predator, I'm sure, will remain the go-to in Mythic Plus and stuff, because you're constantly killing mobs and getting resets. But I like Lunar Inspiration better. So, hopefully I won't mind this nerf, but it's definitely noticeable. Like, so, if Ferocious Bite ends up being the bulk of our damage in PvP, then this nerf is really going to suck. But if we go back to the old school style of feral, where bleeds were very powerful, but you just had to be diligent about, spreading them in PvP and snapshotting the best you could, which you can still snapshot, by the way, with both Tiger's Fury and Bloodtalons. So those are there. But yeah, pretty big nerf. Hopefully it'll work out, because I do like this. So we'll just have to see there. Another big change is affinities. So we still have affinities, but they tied CC to them now, which is really cool. So if you're balance affinity, you're gonna get Typhoon. If you're Guardian, you're gonna get Incapacitating Roar. For Feral affinity, for Resto affinity rather, you're gonna get Ursul's Vortex. Very, very cool. And then if you're Feral affinity for any other spec, then you're gonna get Maim. So great for Resto Druids there. In Mythic Plus especially, but yeah, just across the board. We used to kind of go Guardian affinity mostly, at least in PvP, because of Thick Hide. And then Frenzied Regen was obviously really nice because, it's a non-casted heal. So, but I really like Resto affinity now with Ursul's Vortex. Also, with Guardian affinity, it's an incap, which if we're not very careful in arena, then it's gonna, remove all of our dots and bleeds, which I'm definitely not a fan of. And in a perfect world, you can avoid those scenarios. It could still be really good for sure, especially if we need that extra damage reduction from losing, the extra charge of survival instincts. But that would be the downside if you're not real careful when you're, CCing with Incapacitating Roar. Then you're going to wipe your bleeds and Moonfire, any dots that you and your partner have on the target. So that's the big drawback there. I mean, you could just opt to not use it, but that would be pretty silly. So yeah, just be careful if you take that one. It's not something you'll usually want to use on DPS. You'll want to use it on the healer, and just make sure that you set it up in a way that, a warrior's not going to charge or leap to you or something like that, and then, all the bleeds get wiped off of him while you're trying to CC the healer. But yeah, Resto Affinity really good. Getting Swiftmend and Ursul's Vortex and all that. And it has even more power with the Legendary, as well as Lunar Inspiration does too. There's a nice synergy with the Legendary. This next row though, we still have Bash and Mass Entanglement, so they got rid of Typhoon since they baked that into Balance Affinity, which is fine. And I love Heart of the Wild. So for Resto Affinity, which is what I am right now, you get 30% extra healing and 50% reduced mana cost for 45 seconds on a 5-minute cooldown. So very, very powerful like it used to be. But the biggest problem here is that it's competing with Bash, right? So, only having Maim as a stun, it really makes it rough for the Feral playstyle, at least in PvP, where you're used to being able to, maim your kill target and, set up CC chains with Bash on the healer. So that's the only downside here, is that it makes it really tough because, what do you do? The one caveat here, and I guess a silver lining, is that there's a legendary that will allow you to get Heart of the Wild for 10 seconds every minute. So, as long as we don't need those other legendaries, like if they're not mandatory, then that legendary will make it nice because we can still have Bash and we'll still get Heart of the Wild to save ourselves or, our partners in PvP with 10 seconds of Heart of the Wild. So, yeah, kind of a conundrum. We'll see how that works out. This row here, Savage Roar got buffed up by 5%, but it's still a really weak talent overall. especially considering other nerfs like, Sabretooth. Soul of the Forest is just really strong. Incarn's always good, but, hasn't really been a thing for a while, to be honest. And it's even harder now, thinking about it, because Berserk got changed, to give you those combo points. It wasn't even really competing in BFA as far as PvP is concerned, because Soul of the Forest is so strong. But now, like, it's even harder for this to compete. So, yeah, I think Soul of the Forest is still the go-to there. Sin of Blood, Brutal Slash, Permawrath, those are all the same. And then the last row is the same, except Bloodtalons did get changed. So now to get up Bloodtalons, you're going to have to use 3 different combo point generators within 4 seconds to get it up. Or if you're not running Lunar Inspiration, then you would just replace Moonfire with Thrash. But yeah, so it's really easy to use. I'm not a huge fan of the change because I don't know. I guess it depends on how Lunar Inspiration works out, right? And I even said that before, like, we really need to know how that's going to work out for us in PvP, especially. If it does, then fine. But if not, then it's kind of a nerf in PvP, because we're constantly using our roots and regrowths anyway. And that's how you got Bloodtalons up before. I can see why they did it. It's definitely for PvEers, because, Ferals were having a hard time keeping up DPS-wise anyway, like in Mythic Plus and stuff like that. And then on top of it, if they wanted to take Bloodtalons, you had to waste a global on a regrowth or a root, so just to get Bloodtalons up. So that, puts them even further behind. So a lot of druids were going Moment of Clarity, just, to not have to deal with that. But, yeah, overall, decent change. It just kind of depends on if we're going to have to, go Sabretooth and deal with the nerf and use Thrash, to get up Bloodtalons, or if we can go Lunar Inspiration. So, PvP talent-wise, everything is the same, except we gained High Winds. So whenever we Cyclone a target, they deal 25% less damage for 4 seconds, which is a great peel, and I'm sure a lot of you Ferals in PvP know that, half the time you go to peel for your healer that's getting wailed on, or your partner or whatever, and you haven't gotten a trinket from that DPS yet, so they just trinket your Cyclone. So, this way, it's an effective peel either way, right? So if someone trinkets it, or if you have to throw, like a triple DR Cyclone on somebody, it's still going to be an effective peel. So that's great. I really like that. Probably use it a lot. And the other one is Strength of the Wild. It's not new. It just got a name change. So it was Heart of the Wild before, and they just changed the name. The functionality is still exactly the same as it was. But since they put Heart of the Wild here, they just had to change the name. Yeah, I guess finishing up on talents. Moment of Clarity, depending on, like I said, how Bloodtalons works out, if we can go Lunar Inspiration and whatnot. If we have to go Moment of Clarity or something, PvE or PvP, it has nice synergy with a certain legendary. So just keep that in mind going forward. Feral Frenzy is still really good, and I like to use that a lot in PvP, but it will depend on the playstyle, whether we're still Ferocious Bite oriented with Sabretooth, or if we're moving back to a bleed build, with Bloodtalons and Lunar Inspiration. So, yeah, pretty competitive row here, all around. But, yeah, so that's pretty much it for the talents. conduits. So if you're Necrolord or Venthyr, you know, whatever, you'll have your baseline conduit. And in this case, I'm Necro right now, so it'll give Adaptive Swarm an extra 6% on the periodic effects. And if you're not familiar with Adaptive Swarm, then I'll just show it real quick. So 1828 shadow damage over 12 seconds, and increases the effectiveness of your periodic effects on them by 20%. When it expires, it jumps to a target within 25 yards, alternating between friend and foe 3 times. So yeah, it'll affect HOTS and DOTS, which is really cool. 25-second cooldown, and you know, pretty reliable. Other one that I'm considering is Kyrian, because getting, you know, that flat 15% damage buff every minute can be really strong if we're still a Ferocious Bite burst kind of build. So if it's more dot based, I'm going to stick with Necro. If it's more burst based, then I'll probably go Kyrian for that 15%. Because, I mean, 15% damage on a 1 minute cooldown for 10 seconds is really good. So, and it has synergy with other classes. Like, if you don't just cast it on yourself and get lone empowerment, if you cast it on a teammate, it'll have different effects. So, kind of like symbiosis in that way. But anyway, back to Conduit. So, yeah, you'll, instead of 20, you'll have 26%. Here with your dots and hots. And then Tiger's Fury damage bonus is increased by 3%, so 18% total. Rip damage has a 10% chance to grant 3 energy. So not bad, considering, you know, our combo point gen is directly tied to our energy regen, which is already really low because of the fact that we don't really stack haste ever as a Pharaoh. Taste for Blood is the other one I'm running right now, where Ferocious Bite deals 3% increased damage for each of your bleeds on the target. So, pretty nice. Sudden Ambush, finishing moves have a 3% chance per combo point spent. Rake or Shred deal damage as though you were stealthed. So, not terrible, but pretty low chance, right? I can't see myself running this. Yeah, so that's it for those. And then Endurance, you get 10% reduction on bark skin, which is good. For 4 seconds after shifting into bear form, your health and armor are increased by 12%, also good. An extra synergy there with Strength of the Wild, because your maximum health while in bear form is increased by 15%. Yeah, regrowth and frenzied regen healing on yourself is increased by 12%. I'm using that one at the moment, which is nice when I'm fighting elites and stuff. Well-honed instincts. When you fall below 90% health, you cast frenzied regen up to once every 90 seconds. So, pretty high internal cooldown, but, you know, a free heal. So Iron Fur has an 8% chance to apply 2 stacks. That one, I don't know if it'll work unless you're actually Guardian Affinity. Because with Guardian Affinity, you get the ability to stack Iron Fur with Heart of the Wild. And you'll get 2 Frenzied Regen charges, but yeah, not sure there. For 2 seconds after leaving cap form or travel form, you retain their movement speed bonus. Not too bad. Stampeding Roar's radius and duration are increased by 15%. Nice raid buff there. The cooldown of Mighty Bash, excuse me, Mass Entanglement and Heart of the Wild are reduced by 10%. Really good, since we love Bash anyway. It's on a 54-second cooldown right now. Since I'm running it. And then Heart of the Wild would be reduced as well. which is a really long cooldown, so that definitely helps. But yeah, so those the conduit options for Feral. Legendary wise, I didn't craft them all. I just picked the ones that looked the best. So this one will make your clear cast abilities generate 25% of the energy cost, and your maximum energy is increased by 60. Okay, there's one. So a shred, and you can see that instead of costing energy on that shred, it actually was a net gain by a fair margin. So yeah, pretty nice early on, especially because we don't go for haste as Ferals for the most part. You know, we're looking for crit mastery, versatility, but yeah, so that can be a nice way of offsetting energy regen for sure. This one, we've kind of seen this effect in the past, and I can't remember if it was only on RIP or all our dots. I think it was just on RIP, but now if you use this circle of life and death, your dots deal their damage in 25% less time, and your hots will heal in 15% less time. So, you know, really nice. And as an added bonus, if you're going resto affinity, you know, you get that bonus because you do have hots with resto affinity. If you're, you know, looking to bleed out targets quicker for a DPS gain, but not looking for a burst legendary, then this could potentially be good. I have Fearful Symmetry. Tiger's Fury causes your next finishing move to restore 3 combo points. So that can be nice, definitely, because, you know, our combo point gen is tied to our energy regen, which is really low because we don't stack haste, right? So, you know, whenever you Tiger's Fury something, you're going to get 3 combo points back instantly. So we'll just show that. See? So even after I did a full bite, I got 3 combo points to work with. And it can have a little bit even more added value in PvP if you take Savage Momentum, because anytime you kick something, you know, your Tiger's Fury is going to get reduced by 10 seconds on the cooldown. So a little bit of nice synergy with that legendary there. Yeah, the Frenzy Band. So combo point generating abilities reduce the cooldown of Berserk by 0.2 seconds. Basically a bake-in of one of our Azurite traits. So not too bad. And then the secondary portion, during Berserk, they cause the target to bleed for an additional 50% of their damage over 8 seconds. So we can kind of just show that here. Like you can see what a rake is hitting for, like 343-ish, right? So just pop that and then rake it. So you can see 93, that little dot there is going as an extra dot while your rake is going. And that will, you know, apply to all your other bleeds as well. But yeah, not bad. A little bit of extra sustained damage. This one's all about affinities. So, you know, with Guardian Affinity, Thick Hide, with Balance Affinity, Astral Influence, if you're another spec besides Feral, and you go with Feral Affinity, then your Feline Swiftness is increased. Or with Resto Affinity, Ysera's Gift is increased. And all those are 75%. And when you shift into your Affinity's form, you gain Heart of the Wild for 10 seconds once every minute. So, yeah, 10 seconds out of every minute is a really nice bonus, you know, on top of the passives that you're already getting from it. Now you can kind of see some of the synergy that I was talking about, like with Strength of the Wild. So when I pop into caster form, I'm going to instantly get the Heart of the Wild buff for 10 seconds. And the first regrowth that I throw on a friendly target is going to crit. And then once that crits, it's going to reduce the cast time of regrowth by 50% for 6 seconds, right? So that's pretty much a perfect window between that proc from the legendary and this. So I can kind of show you what I'm talking about here. See, so we instantly get the buff, that crit, and now I'm getting faster regrowths from it. Or I would, I mean, if, you know, I were in war mode.
The sustain, listen to it.
I'm not hearing anything.
You would, though, if it were playing.
Right? But yeah, the first one will crit, and then you'll get to bomb regrowths into somebody at a really fast rate. So nice synergy between Strength of the Wild and this legendary. Oath of the Elder Druid. Really like that. And then, you know, you're also getting that 75% increase on Ysera's Gift if you're resto Affinity. So that 5% of your max health every 5 seconds. And this one's really nice as well. I can see this being a competitor. When Moonfire, Rake, Rip, or Rejuvenation are on a single target, their effects are increased by 30%. So basically all of your dots, you know, and it has that extra synergy if you take Lunar Inspiration. Let's hit a Moonfire here. And you can see it's ticking for 50, 51, whatever, right? And then we'll throw it on and all of a sudden it's ticking for like 66, non-crit or something like that. There's ticking for 232 or something. So definitely a nice increase, and it's going to affect all your dots. Those are the main legendaries. You can check out the other ones. Legendary Calculator on Wowhead, I think, has them all. You know, if you want to see all the legendaries you can get as a feral. Another thing I wanted to show real quick, in case it might help somebody out there. If you're new to feral and using affinities, or maybe you just feel like you could use them more efficiently, but didn't quite know how, or you're not macro savvy or anything like that, I figured I'd show some of that. So what I do typically with my macros is my main abilities. I'll have a certain number of those that have different functions based on what I'm targeting. So, you know, if I'm targeting a harmful target, then it will use my abilities as normal. If I hit shift, even with that targeted, then it's going to cast these healing spells on me, right, from resto Affinity, while still targeting a harmful. If I mouse over a friendly, why is that not working? Yeah, there we go. Oh, he's not friendly because he's a dwarf. Yeah, I don't have war mode on for some reason. So, but yeah, so if you're targeting a harm, but you have a friendly macro, this would be kind of extended functionality for like Mythic Plus or, you know, BGs or things like that, where you want to help out your team, but you don't want to have to just click on them to target them and lose your target. Yeah, mousing over those will use those abilities on them, all while, you know, retaining your target. And then if you actually target them, it will function that way too, right? So that's another thing that I do. Like, I don't use the mouse over portion unless I'm in Mythic Plus or a BG or something where, you know, it's more than just party 1 and 2. But say you're in 3v3 arena, it's easy enough to have macros to target 2 people. So what I do is for my shred and my ferocious bite, if I hit shift plus that macro on shred, it's going to target party 1, and then shift plus ferocious bite is going to target party 2. And then once I do that, you know, these switch to where I can just use all these heals on them. I can dispel them, all that stuff, right? So that's one way of making it really easy to incorporate these affinities, because they're, you know, even more important than in the past. And now, you know, they're further strengthened by things like Heart of the Wild and Legendaries and whatnot, and like the Strength of the Wild talent that I showed. So yeah, I figured I'd show that there. And then you can also do that with Guardian abilities. Like for my bear form, I have it to where if I hit the ability, it's just going to go into bear form. But if I double tap it, it's going to go into bear form and instantly use my frenzied regen. So I can choose how I want to use frenzied regen. Like if I know I just want it right away, I can just double tap this ability. See, and so as soon as you go into bear form, it's going to frenzied regen. So I can sit there and spam it that way. But if I just want to go into bear form and save that, right, just mitigate damage, but I know I'm not going to need the heal, I can just hit it once and go into bear form. So yeah, there are a lot of things that you can do, and you could do the same with Iron Fur, you know, have it tied to going into bear form if you prefer. For me, Iron Fur is more situational because a heal is affected by both magic and physical, right? If you need a heal, you need a heal, but Iron Fur just mitigates physical damage by raising your armor. So that's why I have it on a standalone bind. But yeah, you could incorporate those how you want. So just to give you an idea, like my macro here for my Covenant ability. So it's going to check to see if I'm holding shift. If I am, it's going to cast Swiftmend on myself. And if I don't have shift held down, then it's going to check to see if I have a mouse over friendly. And it'll cast if I do. If I don't, then it'll check to see if I have a friendly targeted. And then, you know, it'll cast it then. If I don't, and I have a harm targeted, then it's going to use my Covenant ability. So, and you know, you just take that throughout your abilities, with that same logic. If there, you know, any of you guys out there that are new to something like this and you want those macros but can't see them very well on the screen, like maybe you're looking at the video on a mobile phone or something where it's really small, just let me know and I can actually give you the macros. Just like let me know down in a comment or something. But you know, maybe most of you won't get anything out of that, but I figured I'd throw it in because I know a lot of ferals that just don't use those functionalities, right? Like they'll take resto affinity and they'll just get the passive from Ysera's gift, but they won't actually use any of the rest of it, you know? Or they'll take the 6% from thick hide, but they don't actually use any of the other stuff that comes with it because, you know, they just don't know how to be efficient with it. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. So hope you got something out of it, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching.